Hello, welcome back. So, I don't know if today's episode is more for you or more for me. Either way, I hope that it is helpful. And this is something that really comes up for myself and my clients. And honestly, I know a lot of my friends and people in my network as well, especially if you are someone who is really hard on yourself, if you are a high achiever, if you're always trying to do a lot of things and juggle a lot of things. We are the hardest on ourselves. So, my message to you today is to give yourself some freaking grace and compassion. Like, give yourself a break a little bit. And sometimes in life we're in a groove and we're doing all the things, we're getting all these things done, we're feeling quote unquote, productive. Oh, I feel so productive. We're getting up early, we're doing our workout, we're eating the healthy food, we're drinking the water, we're crushing it at our work. We feel like we're just in this flow. And then life happens, right? We drop the ball or things start to explode. Like, the best way to say that, right, is just life happens. Like, we know it's going to come, but we can't plan for when it's going to come. Someone in the house gets sick, or you get sick, or whatever might happen, like, something didn't go your way, your schedule gets all out of whack, whatever it might be. And then usually it feels like when it rains, it pours, right? Like, it feels like everything tends to all happen at once. And whether that's true or not, it's what we're perceiving, because what we know is our thoughts and all of those feelings, they also are creating our actions and our results. So if we start to focus on the negative things and the things that are going wrong, we tend to see more of that. However, it's still how we are perceiving it. It's still how we feel it, that all of a sudden, wow, it just feels like thing after thing keeps happening. And I know for me that I always have a lot of things going on, right? So obviously, as an entrepreneur, as somebody who is coaching clients, who's running programs, who's doing speaking, who has the podcast, who had the book come out, and I'm also a wife and I'm a mom and I try to be a friend and all of those things. It feels like there's always so many things going on. And I'm somebody who really likes a schedule. And if that schedule gets interrupted, if something happens to change that schedule or things pop up, it can be really hard to then feel like I can get back on track. And I know I've heard this from a lot of other people. And if you are a parent who's listening to this, that just adds a whole extra layer of like escalating it too. So I'll give an example. I'm from Wisconsin here, and we've had a decent number of snow days already. And just in the past few weeks, like the other week, my son Sawyer, so he is 6, so he's in kindergarten, so he's got a lot of energy. He still, wants attention and things that he wants to do with us and to play and all of that. Well, he's been off of school. So they had a snow day on a Thursday, and then he had off school on a Friday and a Monday because of teacher in-services and conferences. He went to school Tuesday, and then they had a snow day Wednesday and Thursday. So that's pretty much a whole week home. And you might be kind of chuckling if you've been in the situation as well. Other parents can relate to where it's like, okay, now what do I do? For any parent working from home, it's a struggle then to have 1, 2, 3, multiple kids at home with you. And I feel it extra now being an entrepreneur because it's just me. And I don't have this big team that can pick up things that I can't do. I do have an amazing assistant, but still at the end of the day, it's my business. I have a lot, recording the podcast, recording content, prepping for speaking events, working with my clients, contracts, all of that is on me. And you can feel that pressure because if I'm not doing it because I'm playing with my son or I'm entertaining him or I'm getting him stuff set up for school, then it's not getting done. And I hear this a lot. And if you're somebody who has your own business or you work from home, you also feel that. Like, if you are owning anything, if you are responsible for anything, you feel this pressure because it's your responsibility to do it. And at the same time that he was home, my dog had to actually have a mild surgery and have some different lumps removed. And so he had stitches. So we're trying to keep an eye on him that he doesn't lick his stitches. And so my husband and I are sort of playing tag about who has meetings, who's watching the dog, who's getting the snacks that he's asking for. And it can just be exhausting. And I know that this is not just me, which is why I wanted to talk about it today, because I know that it's not just me, and I know that you probably are feeling this as well. And a lot of the times what happens is we beat ourselves up about how we're dropping the ball on things, or we just keep trying to push through and not address the underlying feelings that we are utterly worn out, or that we're overwhelmed, or that things aren't working, that we need help, that we need to change things. We tend to just shove those things down. And those are all what we call low energy thoughts, right? So we know that the thoughts create how we feel about ourselves, about the situation, creates our actions and results. And when we're stuck in those kind of low energy thoughts of feeling like we're at the effect of, or feeling stressed and overwhelmed, we are sort of in this tunnel vision. It's really hard to see beyond that. It's hard to see the opportunities, hard to see how we can do things different. It's hard to see really any of the silver lining or positive things when you're stuck in those feelings. And sometimes we need to sit in those. And this is something that I actually talk to my clients about a lot, is we tend to either try and keep shoving them down or avoiding them, and not actually addressing them. And eventually they're going to come bubbling out. And for everybody, it comes a little bit different. You might all of a sudden be somebody who just starts crying. You might get really upset. You might sort of need to like take a step and a break away from people, but it's going to come out at some point. And so how can we do a better job of addressing those things more often, more in the moment, and being like, okay, I'm going to step back and realize that I need a little bit of a break. I need to take care of myself before all of this comes bubbling up. And I'm here to tell you to give yourself that break. Give yourself a freaking break. I'm going to tell myself to give myself a break, and give yourself some care and compassion that you would extend to anyone else who is trying to juggle all of the things, and realize that you are only human. I heard this really great speaker one time, Tiffany Dufu. She wrote this book called Drop the Ball. It's Tiffany Dufu, Drop the Ball. And first of all, her speech was great. She was a really great speaker. And she talked about how we are always juggling all these different balls in the air, right? And what I loved about, she was talking about she runs multiple businesses. She's an author, a speaker, and then she also had kids, and was talking about how sometimes she has to miss those things or all of that, and that we always have all of these balls in the air, and that some are rubber and some are glass. And the ones that are rubber, if we drop them, things will be okay. Things will bounce back. And that the ones that are glass, if we drop those are critical, and those will shatter. And that you can really take the time to determine which ones are rubber and which ones are glass, and which are the ones that maybe you have to drop at certain times because of the moment that you're in. So I want you to think about which of the things that you are all keeping in the air right now, which are rubber, which could you drop for a little while to give yourself some room to breathe, knowing that they'll bounce back. That can be really tricky, especially if you're a person that's like, I need to be the one to do all of these things. But really think about which ones could bounce back and which are glass. Which are the ones that are going to shatter? And honestly, one of the things that I see, that one of the first things I see people dropping is their own health, their own physical, mental, or emotional health. And I know I can be guilty of this as well. This grinding and pushing, and then not really feeling the things that need to be felt, not addressing the things that you really need to address, not getting enough sleep, not drinking, water throughout the day. For me, that's a big one. If I get busy with meetings, I forget that. And health is glass. If you drop that, everything else is going to drop. And it might not be instant, which is why I think it's easy for people to neglect that one. It might not feel like an instant impact, but it will catch up to you, right? It's going to eventually catch up, right? Your body is going to realize that if you don't give it that break, if you don't give it that care and compassion, it's going to do it for you. And I know for me personally, it's vital that I stay on top of it, because I've shared in other episodes, if you've heard those ones, I'm trying to heal my body right now from multiple different Lyme's disease, from different co-infections, from mold, from healing my gut. And so for me, stress and anxiousness all makes it so much harder to heal. I know a lot of other people that struggle with things like that, and it makes it so much harder for your body to heal if we're constantly in that fight or flight mode. And again, your health could be your emotional or your physical, and it's glass. And that shouldn't be the first thing to be dropped, but it tends to be the first thing that we drop. That should be your number one. And I really want to challenge you to think about, what do you need to address or reprioritize to make that a priority, to give yourself care and compassion and grace. And for you, maybe it's just taking a walk throughout the day. Maybe it's making sure that you get your water. Maybe it's clearing your calendar or adjusting your schedule for a while. That's how you give yourself compassion. You need to be aware of where you're at, and then you need to accept that you need something different in this moment and you need to take action differently. Don't wait to get to the point that you are totally burned out, right? To the point that you've sabotaged your own health and your goals because you keep ignoring that check engine light that is going off in your mind and in your body. And it's sitting there going, hey, there's something off, but we ignore it until all of a sudden it's no longer a check engine light. The whole car just shuts down. And I see this so much with my clients and high achievers because they think that they can just keep grinding and they can just keep pushing through. And the thing is that we all have seasons. Some seasons that you can push through and that you can hustle, and then it's energizing for you. And then sometimes we have seasons where we just really need to take a pause, take a breath, and you need to step back and reflect. Another great example I've heard before is around holding your hand over a hot burner. So I want you to visualize like a hand being held over a hot burner. You would feel the heat and then you would move your hand because that's a trigger to you. It's a cue like, okay, ooh, this is hot. I'm going to move my hand. That's like stress, right? You're going to experience stress. You're going to experience those things. And it's an indicator to you that something is off, that you need to look at, you need to move, you need to change, do something different. But the problem is that we are not cued in enough to that because we're always hustling, that you keep holding your hand over the burner and you get burned. So I really want you to think about this. My challenge for you this week is to really check in with yourself. And if you're experiencing this and you're feeling this, like I know I am and I know that other people are, ask yourself, how am I doing? How am I really doing? How am I feeling right now? Where am I feeling stress and tension and resistance? Where am I beating myself up? Where am I beating myself up right now? And really think about, when is the last time that you stopped and you gave yourself some grace and compassion for all you're doing, all you're navigating, all that you are walking through right now in this season of your life? And if you haven't, take some time to think about it. Think about all of the different balls that you're juggling, all the things that you're keeping in the air, and ask yourself which are rubber and which are glass. And this week, whenever you're listening to this episode, I want you to give yourself some grace and compassion. And I want you to see, how does your body respond when you give it that love and that compassion versus punishment, versus beating yourself up. So your challenge is to reflect on those questions, see what it would feel like and what would it look like for you if you gave yourself some more grace and compassion this week. All right, see you on the next episode.